Yeah, definitely.
He thinks I'm cheating, and I don't blame him.
Nice shots, dude.
How was I able to get aim like this after just a few days on controller after not touching one in almost 5 years? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video, and I'm confident whether you're a beginner or an expert level player, if you follow all the steps in this video, you're going to see drastic improvement in both your aim and your movement, and that's going to result in more kills, more wins, and more fun in Warzone. Now, as someone who's been playing Warzone exclusively on mouse and keyboard, and as someone who likes to make fun of aim assist, I thought I could just pick up a controller and that I'd instantly have awesome aim. And boy, was I wrong. When I first started, I had awful aim at range and my sniping was terrible. Close range was so-so, but my movement, I felt like just clumsy and I felt like a bot. I thought about giving up, but I was determined to get better. So what I did first was I looked at some of the best controller players in Warzone to see what they were doing first. People like Joe, Biffle, Aiden, and Mutek, some of the best controller players in Warzone, if not the best. First, I looked at their settings, which in my opinion is the foundation of any player, and might be what is holding some of you guys back from not drastically improving if you're playing with the wrong settings. Now, the one thing that all of these pros have in common is the aim response curve type they play on, and that's dynamic. Essentially, what dynamic allows you to do is have very fine and precise movements when you're just barely moving your right analog stick, but it speeds up and you can spin around much faster when you move your analog stick all the way to the side. Now, standard is probably what most of you guys are playing on, and standard is similar that it ramps up. However, dynamic allows for even more precision, and in my opinion, this is what really separates a lot of players from having great aim, especially at long range. Now, linear is another interesting option in that there is no curve, it's always the same. This is really good for muscle memory. However, you can't spin around really fast if you're not playing on a super high sensitivity. Now, when it comes to sensitivity, there is a very wide range. There's people that play at the default, some play less, some play way higher. Mutex, for example, he plays 20/20. However, the one thing you will see is the majority of pros typically play in the range between 6 to 8, and they always keep both their horizontal and vertical sensitivity the same. Now, what I decided to do personally was I liked 7/7, just a little bit higher because I can move around a little bit faster. I feel more fluid. However, my ADS sensitivity multiplier is 0.85. The reason for that is 7 times 0.85 roughly equals 6. So I've got better movement when I'm just running around, but I have that precision of the default sensitivity when I aim my gun in. Now, Deadzone, in my opinion, is just as important as sensitivity, and this is something that was really holding me back at first. When I first started playing, I was playing with an Xbox controller, and it was new, it felt nice, but I had to have my right stick Deadzone minimum all the way to like 0.15 to avoid having stick drift. Stick drift basically is when if you're not touching the controller, if your character is still moving a little bit, that's stick drift, and you don't want that because it's going to completely throw off your aim. So basically, you need to turn up your Deadzone until that movement stops. Now, what I ended up doing was buying a custom scuff controller, and I went all out. This thing has paddles on the back, it's got digital tap triggers, all of the bells and whistles. But you don't necessarily need to do that just to not have stick drift. Now, I'm not gonna talk too much on this because I'm not an expert on it, and this is just from a little bit of research I did, but from what I saw, a lot of people complain that the controllers made by Xbox itself, like the ones that come with the console or the Elite series, those usually had lots of issues with stick drift. However, a lot of PlayStation controllers didn't so much. Now, I've been a huge fan of my scuff. I really love it. Some other brands that I saw recommended were Thrustmaster and Astros, and both of those have built-in software that you can kind of tweak your sensitivity within the software itself. But overall, I'd say if you have to turn your Deadzone above 0.1 to avoid stick drift, you might want to look into getting a new controller because it's going to be very difficult to have that precise aiming if you have a really high Deadzone. But should you set it as low as you possibly can go? When I first got my controller, I could go as low as 0.02 without any stick drift. However, I actually found later on that upping it a little bit felt more comfortable and I was more fluid. I think just I'm a little heavy on the right stick, and maybe that's because I'm still kind of new to controller. But for me, I went up to 0.08 and I actually feel way more fluid and still very precise on that Deadzone. Now, I do have my left stick minimum input Deadzone all the way down to 0.03, and I actually think I can go lower without any drift. But basically, you want to get this one as low as you can go because in my opinion, you want to move as quick as possible with your overall movements. Now, the way that I found my comfortable Deadzone was actually by just playing multiplayer. I was in Vanguard leveling up some guns, and I just kept tweaking it. I went went up really high, went down back low, and I kind of found a sweet spot at 0.08. So that's something I'd recommend you trying to play around with either in plunder, payload, whatever mode until you find something that's comfortable. Now, one other thing I want to mention before I move on to movement settings, and that is going to be custom sensitivity per zoom. I recommend turning this off personally. You can set different zoom levels for like snipers versus regular guns. It's up to you, but personally, I think keeping it the same is best for muscle memory. So now let's talk about movement. Oh no.
Yo, what the f was that?
Now I'm guessing the majority of you guys are playing on just a regular controller, no paddles, extra buttons, anything like that. And that's totally fine because you can still have great movement with a regular controller. You just have to make a few changes. Now there's two options here. Number one is being what's called playing claw. Playing claw is, for myself, something that I found very awkward, but basically you're gonna take your index finger and you're gonna position it over here to hit, you know, X, circle, triangle, square. You're gonna hit that like this. I personally just don't have the dexterity or flexibility to do this, but some of the best players like Mutex, for example, does play like this at an extremely high level. So option number two would be going into our button layouts and going down to a bumper, jumper, tactical. And basically what that does is it's gonna allow us to jump with L1 and then slide or crouch with R3. So we can slide cancel with never having to take our right thumb off the analog stick. However, I play default with paddles and I have my left paddle set to jump and I have my right paddle to crouch or slide. So it's right, left, right, left, right, left in order for me to slide cancel. Now, one other small advantage to my scuff that I'll point out is I have what's called digital tap triggers. And basically my triggers are, instead of it being a full trigger, it's a button, and it just makes things a lot quicker. But what you guys can do is you can go in and you can play flipped, and basically what that'll do is it'll switch your L1 with your L2 and it'll switch your R1 with your R2. So instead of hitting the triggers, you're now hitting the top ones, L1, R1. It's gonna be a little bit more responsive and a lot easier to shoot semi-autos as well. Now you're probably thinking this sounds like a lot of change, and change is hard. That's where knowing how to practice efficiently and properly comes into play. And this is the most important part of the video in my opinion. So in a normal battle royale like Warzone, at best, you might get into like 20 gunfights in a game, even on Rebirth Island. However, with this method, we can get 20 fights in like a minute or two. Now, in order to do this, you do need one of the 3 recent multiplayers. I'm going to be showing this in MW 2019, but this will work perfectly fine in Cold War or Vanguard as well. So I'm going to put my exact settings on screen for you guys to copy. You can take a screenshot or whatever you'd like, and this is what I recommend for getting the most efficient practicing. So essentially what we're doing is we're putting a bunch of bots in here with the max health. That way it's much more realistic to Warzone. We're actually going over the health in Warzone so that you have to stay on them as long as possible and work on our tracking. Now, if you're learning a new sense, if you're a beginner and learning a new button layout, just go around, kill bots. If you do 100, 200, 300 bots a day, just that alone will help immensely. But I've got a few tricks here that are going to make this extra helpful in really improving your aim and your movement. So this next step here is what drastically helped improve my aim, and that was learning to master aim assist. But in order to do that, we have to turn it off. When I started doing this and killing a few hundred bots a day with aim assist off, that's when I really noticed my aim getting better. Especially when I turned it back on, I felt the aim assist a lot more and my aim felt way more sticky and just smoother. Now, I do want to quickly touch on the 2 other types of aim assist. So I highly recommend sticking with standard, and pretty much all the pros play with this. However, precision and focusing, what they do is they basically make that box of aim assist of where your aim feels sticky smaller but stronger. However, this is good for sniping, precision, and focusing, but standard is really what you want for everything else. Now, one thing that's important to know is how aim assist works, and this is something that messed me up initially. I thought that aim assist would aim for you. That is not at all how it works. Aim assist simply works by like a safety net. When you get over a target, it's gonna slow your aim down and basically just help correct you from overshooting your target. So practicing with aim assist off is what really gets you to learn that, and if you can hit it with it off, the aim assist is only gonna help you have stickier aim once you get on the target. And I know someone's gonna comment, I play better with aim assist off. And look, I'm telling you, you are putting a major handicap on yourself. None of the pros play with it off. Aim assist is the controller player's biggest advantage, so use it. Now, after I killed some bots with aim assist off, I really recommend turning it back on and killing at least like 50 to 100 bots with it on, because there are times when aim assist wants to work against you and you have to almost push through that aim assist. So put it back on, reacclimate yourself, and then jump into Warzone. But what about long range aiming and recoil control and sniping? Well, This method works, but we're just gonna change the map. If we go over to Euphrates Bridge, you go to the very top of the bridge in the center of the map, grab an AR, whatever, like I use an M4 normally, and you can basically get tons of long range engagements there and just keep going. Make sure you have a munitions box on and you can just keep refilling your ammo over and over. You can turn aim assist off on this as well if you want, but normally for the long range stuff, I just left it on. And then lastly, for sniping, I also did Euphrates Bridge. However, I would change it to headshots only and bring down the health to 150 because anything above that won't be a one-shot headshot. I also would change my field upgrade to tack insertion. I would drop a tack insertion on top of the bus because for whatever reason on headshot only, you die like in one shot from all the bots. So you'll die a lot more that way. So drop a tack insertion. If you get killed, respawn, drop another down, and you can just sit up on top of that bus and snipe people across that map and get a lot more like Rebirth Island and Warzone, you know, realistic distances when it comes to sniping. Now, after a few days of getting in the habit of going for headshots only, I eventually turned headshots only off and just did 150 health. And that way you don't die nearly as fast that way. And then you can just run a munitions box and stand up there or run around and quickscope people. And this method helped my sniping incredibly. Basically, my goal was to try to go as fast as I could between snipes and just try to keep my accuracy as high as possible and go for like streaks and hit as many snipes in a row as I could. So a typical day for me looked like getting on and I would go on a small map. I would do like 100 to maybe 200 bots with aim assist off. Then I would turn aim assist back on, do another 100. Then I would jump over to Euphrates Bridge with like my long range AR, do about 100 bots there. And then I would change it to the health down lower and I would do sniping and do about another 100. So usually doing about 400 total bots per day. And honestly, this took me at most like 30 minutes to do. If you can do this every day or at least a few days a week, I guarantee you will see a drastic improvement in your aim. So we've covered aim very intensely, but what about working on movement? There's all these great movement guides out there, but they never really tell you how to get better at movement. Well, in my opinion, what I did was I kind of killed two birds with one stone. Whenever I was doing my aim training, I was trying to side cancel, bunny hop, just jump around corners and practice my movement in there and work both on using movement against my enemies. Now, there are a few settings that are very important when it comes to movement, and that would be making sure your slide behavior is on tap. This will make your side cancels way easier, and then changing your automatic sprint to automatic tactical sprint. This way, I don't have to worry about pressing sprint. As soon as I move my left stick forward, I start sprinting. And this will just make your movement so much better. And this is really like the key, to my opinion, of how you get nasty movement to help break people's cameras. Now, one of the most common movement techniques that we use in Warzone is the slide cancel, which is done by crouch, jump, right? As I messed mine up there. Now, one thing in particular that helped me a lot with slide canceling was just to do it over and over repeatedly. And I would do this kind of going back and forth, usually behind cover here. And just doing this a little bit before I really got into anything and getting like the muscle memory down helped me drastically so that I could use my slide cancels much more in game. But personally, what I struggled the most with when it came to slide canceling was my centering. So I would, if there was a guy right here, let's say this orange dot, I would slide cancel and I would never have my aim right on this guy. So I would maybe like pull more this way. And my problem was I wasn't keeping my center dot, my little white dot here, on the target. So what I did was exactly that, and I basically just would practice, and I would, you know, kind of pick these two dots here, and I would try to center and have my aim as close to possible when I'm coming around the corner. And you can start shooting it. And just practicing having good centering is one of the most important parts when it comes to movement. And for those who don't know what I mean by centering, if you're walking around, you always want to keep this white dot at chest level of where your opponents would be. If you're walking around like this, or most commonly, I always see everyone looking down at the ground. If someone pops up and I have to shoot him, I have to now fix my aim up, and you're wasting precious time to now get your aim on target before you shoot. So what I always recommend is always, let's say I'm coming around this corner, always have that center dot at eye level or at chest level so that you're ready to take on an opponent no matter where they might be. So with the proper settings and techniques to practice both my aim and movement, doing this every day, I saw insane improvements in a very fast period of time. At the time of me making this video, I've only been on controller for less than 3 weeks. I'm actually only 1 kill short of breaking my mouse and keyboard PR. I've had multiple 20 kill games on Rebirth Island, and I think the vast majority of this to literally just by doing this practice routine on a daily basis. So try this practice method for a few days. I guarantee you will see results. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions, and stay tuned for my advanced controller movement guide and controller aim guide that I'll be doing specifically on just those two things, and we'll go even more in depth on how to get better at both of these. I hope you found the video helpful. Let me know what else I can do for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. As always, see you in the next one.